hype rather than this presentation, but I really appreciate you being here because today we're going to talk about HOPE-free. We're talking here, again, my name is Shintaro. This is my colleague Jinjin Gui. We're talking about online leisure education intervention, what we started to call ONLEI, because we need a sexy name on it. And to improve people's well-being, subjective well-being, things like happiness, life satisfaction, and active living among rural Albertans. And it's about vision and plan. So my purpose here in the next 20 minutes or so is to get you excited hopefully, so that maybe if you're interested in, reach out to me, maybe you can support us, we can work together. So that's our purpose here. And let me start with why we have to care about well-being and active living in our field very quickly, because you work in that, so probably you really value those things. If you're coming from TR, therapeutic recreation perspective, I'm pretty sure you have seen one of those, informatic kind of document, really nice from Mantra, talking about what is TR. It defines TR in relation to health and well-being. It's central to the profession, and that's what we strive for. If you're coming from parks and recreation perspective, and that's really nice to have Ben's presentation. Before that, we have this important piece of document, and in it, really vision talks about individual and also community well-being. And it goes specifically talk about active living, which was not one of those key findings, but it's right there too. So again, in the recreation field, both well-being and health, active life are important, one of the most important outcomes. And that's what we're looking at. If you look at the leisure research literature, what we have had recently is what is called, what is called a meta-analysis, which is a fancy way of saying just summarizing past statistical findings. And what they found was that it's actually leisure life. It's a key domain that's very important for our subjective well-being. It's actually more important than your marital status. I'm married. It's more important than sometimes income level too. Very important. That's what we're doing here in our field. We have to be proud of, and that's very important. And the study also found that the positive relationship between leisure participation and physical health, and we go like, yeah, of course, what we're talking about. We know that in our personal life, we know that in our practitioner or professional life. But the point is, these are key outcomes. We know that they're related to leisure recreation. We have evidence. Now, if you look at the rural Alberta, according to the census data, 2016, about 1.6 million people live there, about 40% of the entire population outside of those major cities. It's a lot of people. And what they face in terms of those well-being and health is unique to an extent. They face, for example, lack of mental health services in terms of well-being piece. And probably many of you know better than me in person. And also some certain types of physical health issues, such as a sedentary life is more prevalent, tend to in those rural areas, and there's evidence for that too. So those are important, and they face unique issues. What can we do? Can we improve well-being and active life among rural Albertans and our people through leisure? And of course, our answer is yes. That's what we do. What we devote our time to these, this leisure and recreation profession. That's what we do. But the million-dollar question is this: how? How? Because we need to know how to actually impact this leisure, so that we can improve eventually well-being and active lives. So how? And in the leisure research, therapeutic recreation too, one common method has been what is called leisure education. It's a psycho-education in a way, and also behavior modification. People talk about, what's the value of philosophy of leisure and theories of maybe leisure, and here's maybe what you want to do. Maybe there's some activity associated with that too. And we try to intervene, change leisure behavior, and some factors such as motivation. And eventually, ultimately, we want to make people happier and improve health. And that's what we do. There are some important researchers in the field. One of those people, for example, Dr. Joe Dattilo from Penn State University. If you look at his model, it's part of it. What leisure education really does is to increase the awareness of leisure opportunity. Sometimes in your community, you just didn't know that there's this great resource, the facility, the program. I didn't know about it until I learned about it. Talk to this person. That happens. Constraints. There are so many things that stop us from participating in leisure. Time, money, family, There are many things like that. And now the question is, how can we negotiate? How can we overcome? We learn those things in a leisure education and foster knowledge, skills, and attitude that help us to have a good leisure experience. And ultimately, everything goes down to, in his motto, happiness, flourishing, leisure, which basically means well-being. And active life is part of that too. So it's a common method. The problem, there is a little bit of problem around this, because traditionally we have done it in person, like this, just like you and me here, right? Sometimes it's a classroom kind of setting, like me talking, there are like 30, 40 of you, that's great. It's a great instructor to client leisure in a way. Or therapy type of things that I talk to one by one, one-to-one. Either way, the problem here is that it costs us a lot in terms of traveling. Either you gotta come to me, or I gotta come to you. Time, personnel, we need experts, maybe someone with a CTRS, some certificate, someone with a PhD. How many people have PhD in a leisure? We're a rare species, so it's a really difficult to get. And room and facility, there are so many things we need. And maybe this is not the most inclusive and accessible way for people with disabilities or people in the rural areas, because they may have some mobility issue, they may not drive themselves, and lack of specialists too, So there's an issue. Alternatively, we have used, some folks like Tila's colleagues to use computerized games, like video games, for leisure education, especially for youth with intellectual disabilities, such as autism, Down syndrome. It made sense for this population. But again, limitations. The cost to develop software, to distribute it to a piece of video game to you, that costs you. Difficulty in communicating nuances and real-world application. It's a game. How can we make it realistic? It's really difficult. And finally, potential appropriateness issue. It was good for youth, but would you do it? And what about older adults? Can it work? So there are some issues. Now, all of this comes to, okay, we need a leisure education to impact people's leisure so that we can make people happier and healthier. But we need that delivery mode that does not rely on those two things. And here's our little bit of idea. And that's what we call ONLEI. By online, we mean that it only requires commonly available devices, such as smartphone right here, or a laptop, those things. And everything else, you should be able to access, download, or access on the internet. And also, it allows for dynamic interaction between users and maybe specialists for the program. And I will get into that a little more. Maybe, for example, imagine a website or a portal where you as a specialist as a sign-in, and you're assigned to, let's say, some of your users or clients or whatever you want to call, let's say 20, 30 people. And they basically do whatever, something with the smartphone. They check their well-being and active, healthy health. They also talk about what they're learning in terms of leisure, and they're going to try to implement what they learn in terms of leisure. But also weekly or daily, they also report you back how healthy they are, how active they are, how happy they are. And maybe the system can automatically flag, hey, Ben is having a little, is really not happy. Maybe you want to reach out to him, see what's going on to him. So that can happen automatically so that the specialist can reach out. Right? This person is not really active over the past week. Maybe you want to reach out. So that kind of automatic flagging, instant messages. Sometimes you want to see specialists. But just a quick question. I don't want to drive 2 hours to get to the city to see specialists to answer this question. It's just a quick question. Maybe there's instant messages can be done too. We can also potentially automatically personalize what kind of information we're providing. Because what you need to learn is very different from what I need to learn, or what you need to learn in terms of leisure education. Because we have a different leisure background. We have different leisure resources. We have different leisure constraints, barriers. So each individual should receive different leisure education. And we can do this by computer potentially identifying, okay, Ben needs this one, so I'm going to give you this piece of this advice as opposed to the other advice, sort of thing. And I'll get into that. I'll show you an example in a minute. And outside of clinical setting, maybe user themselves can interact with each other too through the online system, motivate themselves, share resources, information, opportunity to each other, so that eventually we can create this self-reliant, self-governing leisure community. People just have so many good leisure activity going on, happy, healthy. That's the dream. Basically, that's the outcome. That they don't have to always rely on experts. Now the question is this though, right? Can we do it? Can we do it? When I thought about that question, what I looked for was that similar example. Do we have any similar things in different fields? There's one thing in what is called a positive psychology. It's a branch of psychology that doesn't look at something like depression, personality disorder. They look at the happiness. What they have done online intervention too, and made people happier significantly, decrease depression and stress. There's some study which used a very short smartphone app focused on the mindfulness. I assume that most of you have heard of mindfulness. I'll get into it later. Another study. These two studies actually use exactly the same app called Headspace. Anybody heard about Headspace? Yeah? Anybody using Headspace? Do you like it?
Well, it was a trigger to think about that again. I was looking for resources for clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with that, let me see. Me without losing it. Video. Just a quick video of what it looks like. This is just a demo video. However, that's what basically it does. Basically, this is guided meditation, but it's guided by the voice. It's a very calm, nice voice. And the research showed 10 minutes of just guided meditation for 10 days, and there was a significant improvement.
And welcome to Headspace. So no matter what's going on in your life right now, no matter how many thoughts are racing around your mind, no matter how the body's feeling, just take a moment to sit down and take a big, deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you breathe in, a sense of taking in fresh air, the lungs expanding. As you breathe out, a sense of letting go of any stress in the body, in the mind, just feeling the muscles soften and relax. And close your eyes if you like to, one more. Breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just take a moment to pause. Allow the thoughts to come and go. And then just gently open the eyes.
That's a quick demo for that. And I'm going to stop it. I sometimes feels like it was not necessarily the apps, but it was the voice that's so good to Carmen. Yeah. They just got the right person. A little bit of accent, I guess. That's fantastic. But it's so simple. It's not that, rocket science here. I mean, besides that their animation was good, the voice was good. Yeah, but it's not that. It's just an audio clip, in essence. Another example is a project called Killer Active down in Australia. And actually, our faculty's dean, Kerry Murray, was involved in this, and he introduced me to. What it does is it's basically web-based, personally tailored videos to increase physical activity. It's a pieces of video, lectures, and advice for how to get active. I think this hasn't been released publicly yet because it's still research stage. However, what it does is very interesting. So if you sign up, you have to answer a series of questions, and this is how the portal looks like, your homepage. And it has session 1 to session 8. There are different lectures. But basically, each video looks like this. There's a nice, handsome looking guy talk about how exactly important to be active. But that each video, about let's say 7 minutes or so, it consists basically bits of video, tiny bit. And that combination of tiny bits is automatically determined for each of you, a little bit of different based on what you're telling me, the machine and the website, in terms of a series of questionnaires. For example, you may come from different demographics, age difference, for example, gender differences. The messages will change automatically. You may provide a different type of, oh, I have this time issue as opposed to I have this muscle pain. Well, that's different. So the video will automatically change based on your needs. And again, motivation, for example, this person is, just, I love exercise. The other person is, I want to do it just because I want to look fantastic. Again, the video changes. That's what this does. And the key here is that there's nobody behind that's doing the assignment. It's randomly, automatically done. Now, the question is, and it's little fast, but if they can do it, why not us? I think why not leisure recreation professionals, the researchers? Why not us? We just need a little bit of money, maybe. That's okay. So, okay, what's in it for us? What's the benefit? What's the point of doing this? A, again, going back to the original point, it eliminates transportation distance, which is that's great. Cost efficiency is great. Once the portal, the main components like the website or application is done, and also content like video is done. It runs itself to an extent. Of course, we need a maintenance, we need some experts to maintain that, but it's way better cost efficiency. Think about the flexibility too. People can use this over the weekend if they want. People can do it in a different pace. Maybe they want to take it easy, or maybe they want to rush, knock it off. Also, they can be used in a practice in clinics. As a supplemental, of course, it doesn't replace us. Of course, no, it's not going to happen. Recreation is so human touched, it doesn't happen. But it helps us as a tool. Maybe we can engage remote clients who can only come to you once a week. What are we going to do for those 2 weeks? This could help to engage them. We can monitor and follow up people who did, for example, spend time with you, inpatient or outpatient, whatever that might be, and now they're gone. Maybe you can check on them by this, and maybe this system can flag if they kind of slide back on. You can reach out to them when the system flags them. Those are good benefits, but maybe the greatest benefits of ONLEI is that A, I'm going to focus on here just 1 second, it can make truly therapeutic recreation applicable to all people. All people, beyond just the people with disability. That's of course important. But how many times you read the textbook of therapeutic recreation? It says that TR is not limited to people with disability. However, in reality, I feel like, we work a lot with the people with disability, in reality too. But this is on the internet. This is on up there. So potentially, if we make it up public to an extent, anybody can use this. And we can apply it to the different contexts. That's the potentially people with a lower income level. We can tailor it. And also, now the entire recreation field. It can be a strong marketing tool for our field, professions, and their education. In today's time, I believe that everybody is interested in work-life balance. Everybody, pretty much everybody. Which is basically work-leisure balance, right? Well, actually, I want to say leisure-work balance. But we don't have education for that. We have education how to be productive, efficient, certificate, degree, yada, yada, yada. We don't have education to have a good leisure, enthusiast. If we can make it publicly open, people will recognize the importance of recreation leisure. People will invest in this area, and that's very important. People will be proud and recognize the degree in the field. And I think that's a very important piece. And let's be honest, the first thing people learn about new thing, it's on the social media right now. So why don't we get out there to do marketing? And ONLEI does that. What are we doing? And what are we going to do in the future? I'm working with the Alberta Health Therapeutic Recreation Association, and we have Diane and Tiffany here, who worked with me so far. That's great. I'm working with the Dr. John Dattilo from Penn State and Bob Stebbins from University of Calgary, of course. They are leisure education experts. Fantastic. I'm working with the researcher who was involved in that Taylor Active Video Exercise one, Dean Kerry Montgomery. So we have a pretty strong team, I believe, and we welcome any support and collaboration as well. But what are we doing is grant. We need money to develop. There's contents, of course, it's technology. Once content's are ready, though, we can conduct more systematic research to actually test whether it works. Does it make us happier? Does it make us healthier? And we can work on that. and diversify the contents. Self-population, we started to opt with the rural Albertans. Maybe we can go to inner city, go back to the big city. And maybe we can create something like a smartphone too. Smartphone app, I mean. And also advanced features like personal tailoring function as well. And that's down the road though. And also we can also share the content with the practitioners, and that's very important. Again, it doesn't replace anybody, but it helps. It's a tool that we can use. And finally, make some of the only publicly open, because I think that benefits all of us, because it really puts leisure and recreation up front in a society, in a social body. And I think that's very needed now. And that's the end of my presentation. And I hope you get excited a little bit. That would be great.